We're at Zebra Technologies, one of the most dynamic B2B technology companies in the world. They digitize and automate workflows for companies. They do about $5 billion in revenue and have roughly 10,000 employees. Today we're talking to their CEO, Bill Burns. Let's go talk to Bill. We're with the CEO of Zebra Technologies, Bill Burns. Bill, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So tell me what Zebra Technologies is.
You know, you see Zebra in everyday life. You see us in point of sale checkout at retail, where you see scanners either at a supermarket, think of flatbed scanners, or the scanners they use to scan your water when you're leaving a supermarket. Think of it as parcel delivery. So whether it's a post office delivering a parcel to your house, or it's a transportation logistics company, they use our mobile devices to ultimately scan the package and get signatures and others on those devices. All the largest retailers around the world, both in the US and globally, 86% of the Fortune 500 companies are our customers today. And we think of it as retail, transportation logistics, manufacturing and warehousing, healthcare, and government. Ours are our largest markets overall because they all have to print or read a barcode. They all have to have visibility to their assets.
Bill,
Yeah.
tell me about the NFL and next gen and all the data that you're collecting, because I'm seeing this here and I'm interested in Zebra's role.
Yeah, I mean, one of the exciting things we do with the, as a company is that we support the NFL in what's next gen stats, right? So the idea that Zebra, on the football, all the shoulder pads of every player actually have an RFID tag, built into the shoulder pads themselves, actually attached to them. The ball has a tag within it too. Same technology we'd use in retail or transportation logistics to track parcels or inventory within retail. We use that technology in the NFL to track every cleat, every shoulder pad, every helmet worn by a player, either in practice or in the game. And we use active tags. The tags look like this. Inside
nice.
The shoulder pads themselves. And
So when Tyreek Hill runs 20 miles an hour, is
that's
that
correct.
part
So
of
the
it?
NFL's initial use case was to fan engagement and to enhance the broadcast.
Okay.
And then the latest use case is really around health and safety. How do I protect the health and safety of the player? So I want to know what cleat, what shoulder pad, what knee brace, what helmet a player's wearing anytime they go on the field, practice, or a game, to be able to protect the health of the player.
How'd you become the CEO of Zebra Technologies? This isn't your first time being the CEO.
Yep.
You've been here about 9 years.
Yep.
Tell us about your career and how it led up to becoming the CEO.
Yeah, so I started
Zebra.
my career in sales, in large telco sales into folks like Verizon and others, and then into some new startup areas that the company was invested in, and then took a role leading Europe, Middle East, Africa from a sales side, and expanded my remit there to beyond just sales, but to marketing and services and others there, and then joined Zebra 8-9 years ago, June of 15, to lead the acquisition piece. So Zebra was $1 billion specialty printing business was most of what they did. They bought $2.5 billion in revenue from Motorola to the enterprise business. So it became a $3.5 billion business in November of 14, kind of overnight. $1 billion business becomes $3.5 billion, which is more than
Quite
double
significant,
that, right? Quite
yeah.
significant, right?
So this is your second company that's a public company.
That's right.
Yeah. What's it like? Do you pay attention to the ticker a lot? Is it hard not to? I mean,
Yeah.
that is your role of it's part of the role of the CEO to make sure that.
Yeah, I think, look, our investors, there's three legs of the stool, right? Ultimately, our customers, our employees, and our investors, right? And our investors want to see our stock continue to grow. I'm a big believer in, if you do the right things within the business, the stock price will go up, right? Mm-hmm. So ultimately, you generate, and grow revenue and grow profitability, and ultimately, take care of your customers and your employees. If you do all those things, the stock will follow. So I think that, sure, everyone wants to see, and our investors want to see, ultimately we're in business to continue to make money and generate cash ultimately, but you've got to do the right things first. You've got to be able to, reward and attract and retain the best employees around the world. If you do that, then you'll serve your customers best. You serve your customers best, you'll grow your top line revenue, and your profitability will follow that, and ultimately your stock will go up.
Well, show us the printers. I know that.
Yeah, so
show us around this whole room.
Yeah, so we're the global leader in industrial printing. These are, our printers here, and I think we talk about the idea of asset, identification and tracking, right? The idea that a printed label is the first way to actually identify an asset, right? And know where or know that there's something there. So think of a retail store where you place an order online for, a blue shirt size medium, right? And they're going to go pick it for you, and you want to just go pick it up at the store. They got to go find it in the store. How do they go do that? Well, they ultimately know what department it's in, but if it's tagged with a radio frequency ID, they can know ultimately through readers in the ceiling, oh, it's in this area on this rack within about 3 feet. And then they can use a mobile device as kind of a Geiger counter to actually find it specifically, that tag on that shirt, to ship out to you. And then they pick it, ultimately the order, they ship it out, or you come and pick it up in the store.
It's been a volatile year that you've been CEO. Election coming up, inflation, there's been supply chain woes. You're not the only company to go through layoffs. What has that been like? What challenges have you faced as the CEO in this year? Like looking back after 1 year, what are you thinking? Here are some challenges that I faced.
I think that, our business, just like many other businesses, benefited on, through COVID because of what was happening in the industry. And then I think what you saw in a lot of businesses, including ours, is 2023, the demand levels reset back to 2019. So we were, at about the same size revenue-wise in 2019 and 20 as we were in 23. The long-term growth rate of ZBRA will be intact. The anomalies will be probably 21 and 22. They were great while they were here, but now it's about continuing to grow our business from here. And I think a lot of businesses like us looked across their cost base and said, okay, we're a lot smaller than we were the year before. What do we got to go do? And we did the normal things that most businesses would do. Look at your real estate and your travel costs and all those things internally, and how do you cut back in those areas. We did things like voluntary retirement programs. So we said, look, it wouldn't be right to tell somebody you don't have a role at ZBRA if someone else was going to retire in a short amount of time. So we incented some folks to say, hey, if you were going to retire anyway in the next 12 months or so, and why don't you do it now and think about creating more opportunities for people within the organization. And that worked out great. I mean, it's always hard to get smaller. It's always a lot more fun to grow. But you've got to go make those tough business decisions at times.
It does seem to be a lot of outside factors that ultimately affect your business that you can't control. You can control your employee engagement, you can control your products and engineering and sales, but it's hard to control macroeconomic environment, election year coming up, inflation. So do you find that frustrating? That it just is.
Yeah, it just is. I think that there's a complex business environment all the time, right? And there's things happening around the world that, who could have predicted that, go back a couple of years ago that Russia would invade Ukraine. So I think that you've got to continue to play your game. You've got to have confidence in your strategy, and you've got to continue to stay close to your customers and continue to pivot across your business, knowing that there's going to be things like supply chain challenges or wars around the world or natural disasters or others that's going to happen. And how do you make sure that your business is as resilient as it can be to many of those?
Tell me about this fun thing.
So this is a new area that we're invested in. And so it's fixed industrial scanning and machine vision. So think of this as actually doing quality control in production, right? So, our base of our core business was always barcode reading, which is really an imager. It's really a camera. And ultimately what you can do is read a barcode and then ultimately say, how high is the water filled? Are the caps on right? Are the labels on right? So you look and marry a barcode with some golden image ultimately, or machine learning, meaning you learn about that, defects and what they really look like. Then ultimately put that back into the computer system and then say, okay, this looks like a defect to me, go pull that from production. So it's the next step to barcode reading, is really leveraging the image to know something else. Is the parcel damaged? Is the label on right? Are the bottles filled to the right level? Are the caps on correctly? So imaging is the next step to barcode reading.
How is AI affecting your business? I believe I saw in an interview you have roughly 50 applications being used. Yep. What are those applications? What are the main ones? Tell us about AI in your business, and then I would love your perspective on AI in the future. What does it look like for businesses? Should people be worried? Tell us more about ZBRA and AI.
I think we think of it in two ways, internally and externally, right? So internally, we're doing everything that many companies are doing. How do you become more effective and more efficient in your business by leveraging, AI, code writing within the business? How do you more effectively serve your customers? How do you take all your internal manuals and all the things you used to use in the past and be able to use natural language text to be able to get at that information and ultimately authenticate it that it's ZBRA's information you're using? So using a broader AI model, but on ZBRA's data internally. Externally, I think we're doing some really exciting stuff. So, working with Qualcomm and Google and others to be able to have an AI assistant on these mobile devices. So think of a mobile device in the hands of a retail associate. Ultimately, I want to populate that model with information from the retailer's manuals and others. We think of leveraging the mobile device with AI to have an assistant, or the word co-pilot's kind of overused these days, but how do I make the newest employee as good as my best employee? And I think that's the opportunity for Zebra, is truly to be able to enhance the work of the frontline worker. What do I do when there's something wrong in production, when things go out of specification? If I'm a production worker, I'm using a tablet to monitor production. Not just tell me it's out of specification when I'm producing a product, but what do I do about it? And the way I can do that is by asking in a simple text or language model, leveraging all the strengths of generative AI, but on the data around that specific production line of what to go do, and give that worker the answer in simple form, ultimately they can go act upon.
Oh, here we go. Oh my gosh.
So think of it as, it's really a autonomous mobile robot, meaning that it's designed to work with people. The idea is that it takes steps out of the process for workers. So ultimately, I want to take goods from one location to another. An e-commerce warehouse worker in the past would walk about 10 miles a day. Now the robot does the walking, and the human does the picking.
Right.
So it just changes the dynamics of the worker.
Yeah.
Just like we talked about AI or others, automation just changes the skill set of what needs to be done. Right?
You mentioned healthcare, retail, logistics. Can you give us a rough overview really quickly of what percentages are your business revenue-wise? Like 20% is healthcare.
The largest segment is clearly retail, because retail includes e-commerce, and lots of e-commerce providers today also look like transportation logistics companies because they're delivering things as well. So, 40% of our business or so is in retail, and then transportation logistics is kind of the second largest, and then you have manufacturing and then healthcare. But the largest is clearly retail, because retail looks a lot like the others. So you got kind of retail encompasses a lot of our other verticals.
What advice would you give to someone that's starting out as a CEO of a larger entity?
I think you got to continue to innovate. If you listen to the customer and you really spend time with your customers, what you find out is they're looking for you to develop next generation solutions along with them. They're looking for a business partner that's going to work with them to become more effective and more efficient and serve their customers in a better way. So if you listen to them and you go leverage that into things that you're going to go bring to market, product and solutions that you're going to bring to market to help them in their businesses, ultimately you'll be successful in your business.
What would you tell yourself at age 25? What advice would you give to yourself?
Yeah. Look, I think ultimately you end up in a company that ultimately, if you find there's a career path and an opportunity to continue to grow at that company, you should stay there, right? I think a lot of younger people jump companies ultimately, and I think that if they're respected and have opportunities to grow within the company, they should stay at that company. I think there's a balance of owning your own career, ultimately saying that I'm gonna kind of see a vision to say, what's the next step? I want to do the next thing within the business. I want to grow from a coder level 1 to coder level 2 to 3 to a manager to a director to a VP within engineering, or I want to move into a different organization and do something different because I want to move out of engineering into sales or marketing or others. So think about your own career. No one else cares as much about it as you do. But also be patient, because it doesn't happen overnight. Right. And if you're in a great company and you have opportunities there, there's nowhere else that you're more respected than inside that company. They know you already. Some people say the grass is brown on both sides of the fence, right?
I like
as opposed to grass is greener on the side.
Well, Bill, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Yeah, I'm going to start to see Zebra everywhere now, I think.
Yeah, so, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Let's talk about the NFL. You are a tech company.
Yes.
That's my statement. Well, I don't know. We're thinking scanners and everything, but it's much more elaborate than that. Not to diminish your product, but it is a very legit Roomba.
Item.
Oh, watch out. Oh, never mind. Don't watch out. It's going to move for you.
It's going to move around.
Super cool. They have roughly 10,000 employees. I'm going to redo the steak. Sorry, John. I'm a swearer. You get it. Yeah, one take Will. Now I'm two take Will.